With The Last of Us Part 2 coming this year and continuing the story of both Joel and Ellie, I figured it was time to recap the events of the first game so you're all caught up and ready to dive right into the sequel. The story of The Last of Us begins in the year 2013, just moments before an infection takes over the world, changing those afflicted with it into mindless zombie-like creatures. You are introduced to Joel, a single father living in Texas, and his 12-year-old daughter, Sarah. The same day the outbreak occurs also happens to be Joel's birthday, with Sarah surprising him with a present shortly before falling asleep and being carried to bed. A little while later, Sarah happens to be woken up by a phone call from her uncle, who sounds troubled. She tries to question him, but the phone line dies. She gets up, wanders around the house, and sees a concerning news report on the TV, which is quickly followed by an explosion outside. When she arrives downstairs, Joel bursts into the house with a deranged man following not far behind, who attempts to attack them, forcing Joel to shoot him. As they make their way outside to the car, they meet Uncle Tommy, and it quickly becomes clear how big the crisis is. As they make their escape, they encounter a soldier with a gun. Joel pleads with him, but to no avail. The soldier begins shooting, with both Joel and Sarah hitting the floor. But before the soldier can kill Joel, Tommy shoots him first. Initially it seems they've had a lucky escape. However, Joel quickly realises that one of the bullets has hit Sarah, leaving her seriously injured, resulting in her sadly passing away in his arms. Flash forward 20 years and we're met with a much older Joel and the world in ruin. He is now in Boston acting as a smuggler alongside his partner Tess. Tess arrives back at the safe house following a job and tells him that she was jumped by two men who were sent by a local arms dealer called Robert. Tess tells Joel she knows where he's hiding, however, with the two venturing out, chasing him down and confronting him. Robert explains the guns he stole from them previously he has already sold to a rebel group called the Fireflies. Immediately afterwards they come across Marlene, the leader of the Fireflies. She agrees to give the guns to them and more, provided they smuggle something out of the city. What she wants smuggled is revealed to not be a thing, but in fact a person, a 14-year-old girl called Ellie. They reluctantly agree and split up. Joel and Ellie head back to the safe house, with Tess following Marlene to the camp to check she has the goods. When Tess returns, they embark to the drop-off location, the Capitol building. It doesn't go smoothly though, as they stumble upon military soldiers waiting to ambush them, who scan them for signs of the infection, highlighting that Ellie is positive. She explains that while she was bitten by an infected, she hasn't turned like everyone else, and that's why Marlene wants her smuggled. She believes Ellie is immune and could lead to a cure. They fight their way to the drop-off, only to discover the Fireflies waiting for them are already dead. It's at this point Tess reveals she was bitten on their way there, and states she will buy them time to escape from the soldiers who are outside, urging him and Ellie to go to his brother and former Firefly Tommy, who will be able to help them. While reluctant, they have no choice but to flee. After they've escaped to safety, Joel discusses matters with Ellie and decides they will head to a friend nearby called Bill, who owes him some favours and might be able to get them a car. Upon arriving, Joel manages to trigger one of the many elaborate traps Bill has set up for the infected, leaving him hanging upside down from a chain, with infected fast approaching and Ellie desperately trying to free him. She manages to get him loose and Bill turns up in the nick of time, helping them fight off the horde and get to a safe location. Bill tells them he might be able to get them a car, although they'll need some gear from the other side of town. They arm up, deal with a ton of infected, including a strong one known as a bloater, find the car and get it going thanks to Bill's help, and then begin the drive to Tommy's. They eventually make their way to Pittsburgh, but after being forced to make a detour, are ambushed by a group of hunters. While they survive the encounter, the car is no longer in a usable state and they must continue back on foot. Within Pittsburgh, they come across two other fellow survivors who mistake them for hunters. Once they realise they are no threat, they agree to help each other escape the city, introducing themselves as Sam and Henry. After making their way to a nearby hideout, Henry says they are also looking for the Fireflies and proposes they head to an old radio tower where any of the survivors from his group will be meeting up. The alliance starts out well, with Ellie enjoying the company of someone her own age for once. However, when things get difficult, Sam and Henry leave them. Joel and Ellie defy the odds and get away, ultimately ending up bumping back into Sam and Henry, although with a little animosity between them. Setting things aside, they group back up, pushing through a sewer infested with infected. On the other side, things are much better as they are attacked by another group of hunters, and even though they fend them off, the noise attracts more infected. Once again, they narrowly get away and reach the radio tower, where they spend the night talking about the past. The morning comes and Ellie is asked to wake up Sam, only to find that he has become infected, suddenly lunging at her. Henry reluctantly shoots and kills his younger brother, and then, in a moment of madness, turns the gun on himself and pulls the trigger. Time skips forward to full, with the pair finally making their way to Tommy and his settlement. When Joel and Tommy are alone, he explains Ellie's immunity to the infection, asking him to take her, and in exchange he'll receive the Firefly's payment. However, Tommy declines, causing the brothers to argue. Before it can escalate further, the settlement is invaded by attackers. After dealing with them, Tommy has second thoughts and says he will finish the job. Ellie overhears this and is understandably upset, stealing a horse and taking off on her own. Upon discovering her disappearance, they set off to go find her, leading them to an abandoned ranch. Joel finds Ellie inside. The two have a heart-to-heart, telling her that she would be safer with Tommy, with Ellie telling him that she's not Sarah and that everybody she has cared for has either died or left her except for him. Joel in frustration responds that she isn't his daughter and they are going their separate ways. Once they've beaten more attackers, they leave and Joel changes his mind, deciding he will instead stick by Ellie's side. Together they journey to the University of Eastern Colorado after Tommy tells them a Firefly lab is located there, but as they explore the university, it's evident that nobody has been there for a long time. They do however spot a recorder that reveals that the Fireflies have headed off to St. Mary's Hospital in Salt Lake City. After the tape finishes, they are attacked by bandits, although they do not get off so lightly this time, with Joel falling from a balcony right onto a steel beam, leaving him in a critical condition. They just barely escape, but Joel gives in to the injury, falling unconscious. The story skips ahead to winter, with Ellie out in the snow, hunting for food on her own due to Joel's condition. Whilst doing so, two men approach her called David and James and offer to trade her medication that she needs for Joel in exchange for the deer she has killed. Ellie is cautious, so she tells them she isn't going to follow them and to bring the medication to her, with James going back to their camp to retrieve it, leaving David and Ellie alone as he tries to befriend her and gain her trust. The pair fend off a wave of infected and David's demeanour begins to change, revealing that the men who attacked Joel and Ellie at the university were his men and he isn't happy many of them were slaughtered. James returns, Ellie claims the medication and returns to Joel to administer it. David isn't letting it go however, tracking her down, capturing and locking her in a cage, with it becoming clear his group are cannibals, killing and eating survivors they come across. With the medication beginning to take effect, Joel wakes up and is concerned about Ellie's whereabouts, setting off to find her, torturing the information of her location out of two of David's men. In the meantime, David threatens to butcher Ellie, to which, in a desperate attempt to stop him, tells him she's infected, to which he checks her arm as proof. She takes this opportunity, picks up the butcher's knife and deals a fatal blow to James, giving her a split second to run from David. It's not long before he catches up with her though, as he tracks her down in an old diner and overpowers her. Ellie, in a last-ditch effort, manages to reach for a knife and brutally kills him, with Joel arriving a few seconds later, embracing her just as he would his own daughter. Winter draws to a close and we're greeted again by the duo in spring as they get ever closer to St. Mary's Hospital. Joel, clearly now attached to Ellie, questions whether she wants to complete the trip and that they could go back to Tommy's and live at his relatively safe settlement, with Ellie replying that she needs to see the mission through. The pair journey through an underground tunnel and run into trouble, resulting in her nearly drowning. As Joel desperately tries to resuscitate her, a Firefly patrol sees them, smacking him in the head and knocking him unconscious. The screen flashes to black and Joel wakes up in front of Marlene at St. Mary's Hospital, apologising for her men attacking him and reassuring him Ellie is fine. Marlene explains that to create a vaccine, Ellie must undergo surgery that will end her life. Joel is not willing to lose someone like his daughter again and goes on a rampage, killing any fireflies he comes across that try and stop him from taking her back. He finds the operating theatre she is held in, grabs her, and moves for the exit. Just as he's about to get away, he comes face to face with Marlene, who tries to reason with him, but Joel suddenly shoots her with a concealed gun. When she pleads for her life, he proclaims, "You just come after her," and deals one final shot. When Ellie wakes up and asks what happened, he doesn't tell her the truth. Instead simply says to her that they fruitlessly experimented with many immune people previously, and therefore have stopped looking for a cure. The story ends with them travelling back to Tommy's settlement, although Ellie still has her doubts. She opens up to Joel about how she was bitten alongside her friend Riley, asking him to swear that everything he said about the fireflies has been true, to which he doesn't hesitate to do, and Ellie accepts his answer. While that's the end of the main game, it's not the whole story. DLC was released called The Last of Us Left Behind, which goes into a little more detail on the events following Joel being wounded at the university, but most notably also acts as a prequel, exploring her and Riley's relationship leading up to them getting bitten, which is what I'm going to be concentrating on. 3 weeks before the main events of The Last of Us, Ellie is at a boarding school, with friend Riley surprising her after a period of absence, announcing that she has become a member of the Fireflies. Riley convinces Ellie to hang out, and the two head off to an abandoned shopping mall in the dead of the night. They spend their time talking and messing around with various things they find, like Halloween masks, an old carousel, and a photo booth. Whilst the two of them are enjoying each other's company and having fun, Ellie presses Riley on why she has brought her here, which she avoids answering until it's difficult not to, explaining that the Fireflies have made her join another group in another city, and she wanted to see her one last time before leaving. Despite being disappointed, they decide to make the most of their time left by having a water gun fight and dancing to music played for an old stereo system, leading to them having an intimate moment together. It's at this point they've put themselves in danger, as the loud music attracts infected, and although they try to flee, both of them end up getting bitten. Riley then declares they have two options: one, to shoot themselves before they turn, or two, act all poetic and spend their final moments together before the infection takes over and they lose their minds. But as we all know, Ellie is immune, and that never happens. So there you have it, the story of The Last of Us neatly wrapped up. The sequel, The Last of Us Part 2, is set 5 years later, placing you in the hands of a 19-year-old Ellie as their main protagonist, who is now set on revenge. Why? I guess we'll have to play and find out. That's it for today. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to receive notifications when future videos are posted. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.